All right, hello and welcome everybody. This is Avi Singh, Power BI Pro, and we're live on another Talk Power BI. Let's get started. Perfect. So, if you've seen me do this before, we're just gonna take the first few minutes just to make sure the tech is set up, the audio is working. I'm gonna be monitoring this in like 3 different places. If you are live and listening to me, just say hi in the chat window. I see some of you are already on, and that is terrific. I'm so glad to have you here. Okay, how is... All right. My check says good. Let me pop out the chat window, see what have you guys been talking about behind my back while I was not looking. And let's try another thing. Oops, not here. So my labor of love has been my Learn Power BI class and the way we run it. Actually, you know what? Let me just show you. All right, let's see who's on. Facebook. A lot of you, it seems. Okay, I'm gonna pop in the audio in my ear again, just make sure things are okay. All right, shout outs. I think Ramon joined like 20 minutes earlier. He asked a question there. We'll get to it definitely. Mike already answered. So that's terrific. We'll go through that. Karina is here. Not Mike. Mickey, I think. So hello, Mickey. Shout out to Steve Ross, Pedro Rise, Oswaldo is here. Naresh is here. Yo man, power on. Ramon, Oswaldo, Meg. Meg is here. We were exchanging emails, I think. And Preetham is here. And of course, Pascal. Pascal is inside our Learn Power BI course as well. I am glad to have all of you here. Where do you get started? So, inside my class, we do this experiment. We do experiments all the time. I'll tell you about some crazy ones. So, one that we did was where we try to have people pre-submit questions for a weekly call that I do with my class. And we're still working on that. I think the idea is really powerful. It was suggested by one of our students, and the idea behind that is, for one, you can look at the pre-submitted questions and get a flavor of what do you think is going to be covered in the call. So that's great. If you're like, should I go, should I not go? Just look at it, see if there's something of interest. And of course, another reason is that even if you're not able to attend the call, you can, you still have a chance to get your questions answered. So we're trying this for the Talk Power BI as well. So far, it hasn't worked well. So I didn't see any questions here. There's a Talk Power BI Facebook group, but yeah, join it if you can, and we'll try it a few more times and see if we can make it work, because I like the idea. So let's get started. So I have some questions which I looked through from from all the YouTube comments. Thank you, by the way, for all of that. That's terrific. But let's start up top with... So yeah, folks, if you have any questions, just type in the chat window, and I'll try to work through them as soon as I can. I think Mickey asked right at the end really quick, when is my next class? I'm planning to open enrollment in December. So the way I run it is I open enrollment, I recruit a new class, and then just focus 100% on my students. I've liked, that's the way I've done it so far this year, and so far I love it. I love that, just being able to pivot around, and now I'm not thinking about selling my course, I'm just focused on my students. Okay. So it looks like Ramon is getting started on Power BI. If you, and let's see what Mickey said. Got it. Look at that. That's the kind of interaction I look for. Oops, that didn't work. So Ramon is asking, I created my first report in Power BI. Now I need to use the same report, but using another data source, same data set structure. What is necessary to do in order to not lose the report structure using Power BI Desktop? It's possible to do a report like a template for later use and several times different data source. That's a good question. Let's go to this guy, famous Adventureworks. And somebody on YouTube was commenting that, Avi, I really like it when you show real data, not Adventureworks. Believe me, if you're tired of Adventureworks, think about me, folks. Think about me. No, so yeah, a lot of the course and the training, I use Adventureworks, but I love it that you guys and all my students in the class, they keep throwing real-world problems at me. I thrive there. By the way, one of my students talked about this, that it needs to be shown in millions. Anyway, so here you can do file, save as, and you can choose a template. Now what that does is it doesn't store any of the data inside. Just sends the file. That's it. So just saves the file, essentially the metadata, if you will, data about data. So it has a structure and all of that stuff. And when somebody gets that template, I believe they can change the data source and just connect to the new thing and it'll work. Now, I will answer a question which you probably didn't ask. So Mickey had the right answer. I think Mickey, sorry if I'm messing up everybody's names. I'll just go with what I can think of. So side story. Actually, I have another side story at some point I would like to share with you guys. Sky is green. How about that, huh? Sky is green. But side story, the Miracle on Ice. So folks in US would know what I'm talking about. So this was this epic victory with US ice skating team pulled off against then Cold War enemy Soviet Union. Pretty big event, and the commentator at the time, they were talking to each other, and one commentator hushed to the other one. It's like, hey, I don't know how to say any of the names of the Russian team. And he said, the other person responded saying, just make it up. Whatever you're going to say, that's going to be their name. So, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you guys. So, all right. So, Mickey had a right answer template. But, oh my gosh, this has come up in our class as well. So, think about this, my friends. Think about this. What do you do if suddenly, I don't know what I'm connecting to here. So let's see. So this one is connecting back to an Access database. I wonder if I should run an example. Let's just do a quick example. All right. So bear with me. I'll set it up. So the scenario is, and should I do a new file? I'll just stick it here. That I, let's say, connected to an Access database. Could be anything. Could be SQL. Just data source ABC. and pull the table, or maybe Excel to SQL, yeah. Sales, hit OK. Actually, I take it back. So you have connected to your data source using Access, but now the data source has changed. Not only the location has changed, which is really easy to fix. I usually go to Options and Settings, Data Source Settings, and I change the location there. You can just click on Change Source for pretty much any data source. But now, not just the location has changed, maybe the type of the connection has changed. So maybe now the data resides in a SQL server or something else. So now you go connect to that same data set and you go to a SQL server and you pull that in. This is the new destination. So let's see if my SQL server is up and running. Use my credentials. Annoying warning. Oh boy, you guys are typing fast. I better keep up. And here, let's say my sales is this one. Now, when I was a rookie, maybe I'm still a rookie, depends how you're measuring it, right? What I would do is I would have this new source and I would delete this old one. So I would right click and delete the old one and rename this guy. So let me just rename the old one. So I'll say sales old, something like that. I would delete it actually, and then go to the new one and call it sales, right? And I'll say, yeah, this is my new sales table. Now, of course, what that did is it destroyed pretty much everything in my data model. So when I went back to the data model, I did have the table sales, but everything inside was gone. The relationships were gone unless they were auto detected, which I'm not a fan of at any point of time. I believe you should turn that off, and I can talk more about that. So relationships are gone. What else is gone? Any of the settings that you might have had in your table about sort by column and such. I mean, it's kind of rare. I don't have that usually outside of the calendar table, but still. So sort by column is gone. Oops, not the calendar table. I'm showing you sales. And what else? If you had, God forbid, calculated columns, those are gone. Calculated columns, I don't remember. Well, I actually do remember, but I go to calculated columns very, very rarely. So this new column, that's what I'm talking about. But still, if you had them, they're gone. And my prized possession, my friends, the measures. So you can see here, man, even in Adventureworks, I create quite a few. But in a real system, when I'm starting out, 50 measures easily in just a week's worth of work, and real production system, we end up with hundreds and hundreds of measures. So those would be gone, and that's devastating for me. So of course, the fix is pretty easy. What you do is, if you were looking to switch the source, then I create the new query, sales new, let's say, and connect it to whatever new source data type source is connected to. SQL Server could be anything new. And then I just go to Advanced Editor and grab the whole thing and go back to the old query, click Advanced Editor again, which is right here, which is, hey, it'll be your friend one day. I know, starting out might be scary. And you just hit done. And now that original table points to a new data source. And when you load it, it's not going to be any wiser. It's going to keep all your measures, keep all your settings. So simple trick. And I'm having some trouble with my mouse here today. Oh boy. Wish there was an undo here. Okay, I'll remember not to apply it. Okay, what else? Samuel is here. Manohar, hi. If I didn't say hi earlier. Miki, I answered. When is the next class? Pedro has a good question. Let's go with that. Oh, boom, 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 boom. Great. Not only am I pronouncing them wrong, probably I'm misspelling them better. So, you know what? How about we do the sky is green story? So I sent out an email and I posted a video on Facebook on this. But I think this is. I feel pretty excited about it that I would like to share it if it's okay with you guys. Uh, so what I've been thinking about is I was thinking about my website and like learn Power BI, and it's great. You know, I think it's an okay URL, but what I was thinking about was why learn Power BI, and I really feel that it's not about the tool. It's not about Power BI. It's simply, the tool is only as strong as the person wielding it. So it's not about the tool. It's about what you do with it. That's my take on it. So I felt like, you know what? Yeah, sure, it's called Learn Power BI, but what I want to focus more on is doing, right? What do you do with Power BI? And that got me excited. And then I remembered the story which I read in a book. It's not a story, so it's a study that somebody did, and they went back through all the ancient historic texts. This is old time stuff we're talking about. We're talking about I don't know, thousands of years ago, and they focused on the names of the colors. And it was such an odd thing that for a while they didn't really have a color name for sky. They didn't, there was no blue. They didn't call it blue. It just didn't appear in text. So whenever a poet or somebody was talking about, whatever the color of the sky was, they would use something else. They would use green, like, oh, it's a beautiful shade of green, something like that, something weird, something totally weird. I'm like, what? And then they talked about that it was connected to the colors that we could create and use. So the day they found the blue rock, I don't know how you make a blue color in nature, but thousands of years ago, somebody found something blue that let them create that color for themselves and paint it, and then the color was born. Then suddenly in all the texts, they started having a new name for this color. Let's assume they still called it blue back then. And now they said sky is blue. They stopped saying sky is green. I mean, and at that point, somebody saying sky is green would have sounded dumb. But yeah, I love that story because I think it's all about that. It's all about picking up that paintbrush and painting your own masterpiece. That's the real action. That's the cool stuff. So, all right, so that's my sky is green story. Hopefully you like it. The inspiration there is don't just learn Power BI. Do it, my friends. Let's do it. Okay, let's see if we can help out Pedro. So if you have inside a drill through option, he's talking about drill through option in Power BI. Currently I'm using it, but unfilters all other selected filters from the main page and only applies a single one. So I believe that is not related to drill through. So notice right now I have my famous Adventureworks, and if I go in here and if I click on bikes, let's say, and then I want to click on June. Actually, that's not very visible, but let's try accessories. So if I click on accessories, great, accessories is selected. And then if I try to click on May, boom, now accessory selection is gone. So this is cross filtering. So I'm not in drill through yet. And this is the behavior right now, at least for Power BI, that it only lets you select one of them. I have seen an idea on the ideas.powerbi.com site where they say, hey, let me, I don't know, hold down control key or something like that, and let me select both of them, or pin a selection, something like that. Now, of course, the workaround that I, as a designer, as a report designer, Power BI author, use is I put slicers in there, right? So slicers, let's make some space over here. So I'll just put, let's say, a calendar month as a slicer. And what else? We had product category. So now I can hold the selection. So now I can say, whatever I had selected earlier. So accessories, and that's kind of pinned. And of course, I don't have to use a month slicer. At this point, accessories is pinned. So I can just click June, and now I'm seeing accessories in June, and so forth. So slicers was the way to go. Let's talk about drill through. So I hope I'm answering the right question. I hope I got it right. So drill through well, let's try. Yeah, let's try here. So bikes. Come on, let's try this. So you can go, and yeah, I'm not sure what you're trying to do. If you're trying to click on another graph, yeah, none of that is going to work. So if you mountain bikes, road bikes, but if you click on something else, it's going to clear that filter. So I think it's more about cross filtering, not about drill through. So what happens if I go to bikes? Does it automatically filter to bikes? It doesn't. Okay, I'm not sure about that. That would have been maybe nice. Is that if I drill down on bikes, that everything filter on the bike, which it doesn't do. Anyway, I will say general thoughts about drill through that I'm not a huge fan of it. Why? I think the challenge is discoverability. So a good UI should be discoverable and it should be intuitive. You shouldn't have to train them anything. And for the most part, that's how things work in Power BI. I mean, the first time by mistake or intention you touch something, you tap something like, oh, bikes, what's going on? And you go, whoa, right? So it's pretty discoverable. And I love the new tables have that kind of, you just click on a cell and it does what's kind of expected. So that's discoverable. Now, holding down the control key and selecting multiple things in a slicer is not really discoverable. Most computer users know it, so we get away with it. Drill through these guys, drill downs, is one of the least discoverable. Well, not least discoverable, but yeah, it's not very discoverable. And you have to, when I was working with my clients and users, I had to kind of painfully teach them what's going on and so forth. So is there anywhere? So Mustafa is asking, well, Avi, how about, so is there any workaround? Let's stick that in there. Are there any workarounds for cross-filtering from the charts using the slicer but without selecting on the slicer? Not really. I mean, the only way slicers work is when you select them. Yeah. Yeah, I think slicers, if you have them, you have to kind of select them. Yeah. Okay, let's see what else do we have. Oh, nice one. You guys have some good questions today. I'm glad. Oh, shoot. Gilmore. So Gilmore is asking, I have a multi-tenant application with Power BI Embedded. Ooh, okay, Power BI Embedded is a little out of my scope, but I'll try my best. How can I centralize the maintenance of numerous workspaces because all workspaces access same data structure but different databases? Okay. Again, I'm not familiar with Power BI Embedded, but what do you guys think about? I'm thinking row level security, and maybe that's an option. That way, you would actually have just one workspace, and then just say, hey, if you are so and so logging in, you have rights to this, and if you're XYZ, then you have rights to that. If you're something else, then you don't have any rights or something like that. That might make it simple. Yeah, multi-tenant is the hard part, I think. Multi-tenant is the hard part because normally I'm thinking about in a central organization, if I had a similar thing, like same data structure, but different databases, I would probably put it all in one spot, put row-level security, and then publish an app out of it, and then anybody can kind of consume it however they want. I will park that one. Let's see. Oops. Maybe there's more there. Maybe you folks can kind of help out in the comments a little bit as well. Perfect. Yeah, so Miki had some good suggestions about a little more control in here. So you can control and go to view, format, edit interactions. So that's this guy over here. And you can then say, let's try something silly here. So notice that it's kind of like a toggle. So when I turn on edit interactions, I can click this one. I can click a chart and then control how it filters the other one. So I can say that it doesn't filter, no filter. And now if I click on this one, oops, what's going on? Notice all the other numbers change, but the pie chart doesn't budge at all. So it doesn't filter. The default is highlight. Is that the highlight? No. Default is this one, which for a pie chart looks horrible. Actually, this is a bad example, but let's try. Instead of subcategory category, let's try country. Okay, so now if you do bikes, yeah, it's just for a pie chart it looks really weird. Of course, Adventureworks data is kind of weird to begin with, but it looks really weird. So for a pie chart, typically I change the interactions and I say no, don't try to highlight it. That's just silly. Just filter. So now notice if I do accessories, it stays a pie chart. Great Adventureworks data. It doesn't highlight. So that's one of the things I typically do. You can also pick a so you can also say do not filter, and you can also go to a slicer and say this slicer only acts on this chart. Now, of course, I want you to be careful with edit interactions because, for one, it's really easy for your end user to be confused. So you're like, why doesn't? So they would be used to working with other reports and they're like, hey, if I click on this, everything filters, but in this report, I'm not seeing it. What's going on? And probably the worst scenario that you can end up confused. I have seen some reports which had like custom interactions and all that stuff for each of these and custom visual level filters. And that may be okay, but often what I see is that what they're trying to do really, really hard is to avoid writing any measures. Not intentionally, that's not their intention, but they just haven't learned measures, they haven't learned DAX. So anything that would be kind of elegant in DAX and you wouldn't have to make it very complicated, they'd solve it using a whole string of filters and cross filters and edit interactions. So don't do that. Okay, let's go back. So multi-tenant, what else is there? Oh yeah, like this one. So Sashank is asking, is there any API? So we publish data to Power BI, powerbi.com, and we want to just pull that data in. You can do that, I believe. So of course, one route is, let's try this. So if you go to Power BI, working now? So again, so we have published something up on Power BI, and Sashank is asking, can I just connect to that data set using an API or something like that? And the first thing that comes to my mind is analyze in Excel. But yeah, so you can just go to the data set and click kind of analyze in Excel, and that gives you a connection to that data source. Now, actually a few answers. So first of all, I hope you realize that there is Excel plus Power Pivot. There is Power BI Desktop There is PowerBI.com, which hosts the model, and then there is a whole bunch of other stuff. There's Azure SSAS Tabular, there's Azure Analysis Services, which is kind of the same thing. And they all have essentially the same engine underneath. And so, yeah, so different flavors of the same thing. It's the same engine running underneath. And I know connecting to this guy is the easiest. If you're trying to like connect to it directly, that's a pretty mature technology, SSAS, and Tabular is kind of the new flavor of it, but that's pretty easy to connect. And well, like even Tableau, a lot of things can connect to it, so pulling data from here is really easy. PowerBI.com, since Excel can connect to it, you may be able to use those same rails to connect to it and pull the data in. Of course, another approach is this one. So once you've published it, then you can open a new Power BI desktop, and really anybody who has access to that data set can do this. Okay, come on, Power BI desktop. Oh, there we go. And you can say get data, Power BI service. And now you're going to have a model, not a model really, but a PBIX file, which is connected to the model you published up in the cloud. So you're not kind of extracting the data as such, but sometimes this is good enough, if not better, because you're not duplicating data, you're not making a copy of it. I'm a huge fan of single source of truth. I like just publishing my data in some spot and then having all my reports be these thin reports, which all they do is visualization. They connect back to the source. It has some trade-offs, of course, but in general, I'm a huge fan of that. There's no confusion. There's no two people walking in with the same report and their sales number don't agree. Like, oh yeah, no, we didn't make 2.3 million. It was 2.7 million, that kind of stuff. So single source of truth solves a lot of that. So here you can see I can connect to my workspaces and just click load, which shouldn't be labeled load because it doesn't load anything. In fact, if you notice here, there's only one tab here, report. There's no data tab because there's no data in this report now. It's connecting to the cloud, to that Power BI model, and I have all my measures, which is awesome, which is so cool. So I can say, yep, graph this by country, and I can build all of that, and at the end I can publish it. I can publish this back up to the cloud, but this will be a report, just a thin report connected back to that same data set. So this one, the single source approach, is usually more elegant because you're not making copies of the data. So I'm not sure which way you want it to lean, which you want to just be able to connect to it, create more reports, or make a copy of this. If you want to make a copy, yeah, it's you should be able to do it, but yeah, I'm not sure if that's the approach you're looking for. Yeah, another challenge with often trying to make a copy is that you don't really get the measures. I mean, you can kind of extract the table, but measures are kind of metadata. They're defined within the model. So if you try to copy that model, you're going to lose all the measures. I'll throw in actually another scenario here. Oh boy, so this is so cool. So I frankly, I wasn't even aware. So this works even for when you're connecting to an SSAS Tabular server. So if you have an on-premise setup, if you're not going to PowerBI.com, then you can say connect to SSAS Tabular, and that's your single source of truth, and you can build all your reports and publish it online, and that's great. Everything is still being fed from a single source of truth. Now, this is, well, not a new feature, but it was introduced based on users' feedback, and now even when you're connecting to a cloud model, you're not making a copy of it. You're connecting to the cloud model, or you're connecting to that SSAS Tabular model, but you can still define your own measures. And guys, if you ask me, this is revolutionary. Seriously, this is huge. Oh my God, this is so big. I got to draw something. By the way, I've been pretty spoiled in Microsoft. You get this giant whiteboard. I actually had two walls which were just the whiteboard surface, and I could draw. So I do the best I can over here. So guys, so imagine how big this is, because a big part of my life has been consumed by the tension between IT and business. And I was mostly on the business side, and it felt like I was, had a begging bowl in my hand, and I would be at IT's doorsteps. Hey, can you do this? Can you do that? And of course, I would get tired of that. Like, oh yeah, I come back in 6 months, and I'm like, you know what? I don't have patience for that. Do it myself. But inevitably, with the tools that I had, it was kind of hard. And there are some hard challenges, even with Power BI. There's some challenges which the business shouldn't be tackling. It's just too hard. I mean, slowly changing dimensions or something like that. You can do it, but it takes a lot of effort. So IT is required, but in this new world, business is empowered to do their own thing. And I think the small feature makes that possible in a huge way. So now IT has their model, which is SSAS Tableau or a Power BI service model, and the business user connects to it, creates reports. But as it often happens with IT versus business, and I really want to take the word versus out of there, is IT can get you 80% there, 90% there, but never all the way there. And that's where things get sticky, right? To business say, oh my God, you don't have this one thing that I need. And you say, you know what, just let me export to Excel. And isn't that what happens? A lot of IT reports, all they end up doing is being exported to Excel, and the business users kind of start from scratch. They build everything by themselves again. So it's a lot of redundancy, repetition, but now they can connect to that model, and if it's missing one small thing, they can just add it. They can just add a simple measure and say, yeah, I'm okay. And IT can look at that and say, oh, look, 10 different people have added that measure. We're going to build it back into the system. So I think that is really huge. So sorry we got sidetracked, but actually that was a good one. So I've been talking about with my friends, my friends as well, but my students in my Learn Power BI class. And I love our Thursday sessions. And I told them that I love the questions which start off kind of innocuously, like, yeah, sure, I know the answer, but then go off in a wholly different direction. So I think that happened with this question. So we went off on a different spot, but I think that was a good discussion. So that question earns the Avi Singh's Power BI Pro Power On badge. So that's my Power On badge, and that goes to Shashank. Okay, cool. Boy, I better work through these fast. Let's see. And boy, you guys are helping each other. Hey, that's terrific. I see emails being exchanged and so forth. Gatson. Yeah, I think that's a good question. Let's try this. Oops, what happened there? Page 2. So I believe this is possible. So let's go to the question. So he's saying, hey, it sounds like, so I'm going to paraphrase, but I want to grab all the sheets in a workbook without having to add the new sheets to the query as new sheets are added. It would append all the sheets anytime new data sheets are added. Let's give that a try. Sheet 1, country, and we'll say USA, Canada. Sheet 2, country, Mexico. So I have solved it. I know it's always a challenge to take it on in a live call, but let's try it. Let's get rid of this guy. And we'll go over here. Hey, by the way, folks, I'll make a quick pitch for the talk Power BI, because I usually, I was trying to scan this beforehand. So if you do pre-submit the next time we do this, then I can prep for this, and we can kind of go through the questions faster. I can prioritize. I can see, hey, two people asking the same question, something like that. So what was I doing here? So we were gonna go here and go to edit queries, and I'm gonna say new source Excel country list. And let's say sheet 1, sheet 2. So of course one approach is to kind of grab the two sheets and then append them and so forth, but we're trying to avoid that. We say, hey, if there are 10 sheets, just grab all of them, just append them, and be done with it. So what if in here I clicked data, column 1, okay, fair enough, and then I don't need the rest of the steps, so I can delete them, I think. So I have this query, and I don't need this one because my original query is actually fair enough. So now we have sheet 1 and sheet 2. Let's see what happens if we add a sheet 3. So I'm going to go to the Excel file. Did I close it? I don't have to close it. And I'll go sheet 3, country, and let's say, oh, I already have Canada, Brazil, and I'm just going to save it. So now if I go back and hit refresh, I get the new ones, and you might have to do some cleanup. So I think this approach would work. If it doesn't, you might have to get a little fancy, and in some scenarios I have had to write a function which it called and so forth. But it seems all I did was I connected that source and went back and just expanded the data. So try that, and it seems to be working. As soon as I add a new sheet, it goes in here. Of course, each one of them has the headers, so you might have to do some cleanup. So typically what I would do is I'll say bump first row's headers, and then wherever I find the header country, I'll remove that. So I'll say, just I don't want multiple headers, kind of remove that. And I also like it that it keeps the lineage, so it keeps that, oh yeah, this row came from the sheet. So sometimes later, if you're looking at your final data set, you're like, no, this row shouldn't be there. You know exactly where to look for and delete it or something like that. Okay, so hopefully that helped. And I've been trying to set up a way that I can easily share these files that I create with you guys. We'll, in fact, okay, we'll definitely figure out some way to do it. So I've lost the chat window now. There it is. How to publish one report in multiple Murli, how to publish one report in multiple workspaces in one go. I'm not sure that's possible. I'm kind of curious though. So I think this is the second time this has come up where you seem to be taking the same thing or similar thing and putting in multiple workspaces. But if you're doing it because, oh, this workspace has this set of users who have rights to this set of data, then maybe you can do it with role-level security. So Morley, yeah, let me know. What else is there? Oh boy. Yeah, so Miki has a good question, which so he's asking ability to append instead of replace data. And for one, it's a very legitimate scenario because it's come up so many times. Maybe I have experienced this with my clients as well. I think I have at some point, but I've been asked about this by my students a few different times. So the scenario is that let's say we get the product table. Let's stay with that. So product table, and every day they put a new file. They overwrite that file or whatever, the SQL table, it gets overwritten. Now, I don't want to just get the latest table. I want to keep appending it. And you could be doing a lot of things with it. Maybe you're trying to track product inventory. And the way to do that is the product table has an inventory, but you want to essentially take a snapshot of that every day and just kind of build your table that way. There could be possibly tons of other scenarios. But again, when I hit refresh, I don't want all the data in product table overwritten. I want it appended, maybe with the days. Like, oh, this is November 10th data, this is November 11th data, November 12th data, and so on and so forth. And I was of the opinion that you cannot do this within Power BI. I've been proven wrong since. So my advice in general was to solve it outside Power BI. So, whatever your source system is, you set something up which takes snapshots of that. If you're in SQL land, maybe some SSIS package or something like that. If you're in Excel, a macro or something like that. So instead of, if it's a file, instead of it being overwritten, maybe you create a new file or copy that file. Every day you say this is November 10th file, November 11th file. So that was my opinion. That was my suggestion. Like, no, can't do it inside Power BI. I've since been proven wrong by one of my students who solved it inside Power BI using R. Now, R is one language. I know DAX, I know M, probably, of course, from my prior life, VBA, things like that, but I don't know R. And one of my friends kind of laughs at that and says, Avi, you can't really call yourself an analyst if you don't know R. I don't know. I've always been calling myself an analyst. So I don't know R, but I've seen demos. I know of its capabilities, and certainly they were proven to me once again by a student of mine who what they did was they went to the query editor and hey, where's a place to stick an R? There it is. Run R script. And you can stick an R script inside there, and his R script did something which appended the data. Now, there is a downside to that. So trade-off is that you cannot set up an automatic refresh on PowerBI.com. If you're really interested, I'll try to find the student, but you're gonna have to hang on, buddy. All right, so because yeah, it'll probably take me some time. I should have taken good notes when he did propose that because it was pretty impressive. In fact, you know what? I'm gonna go back to him and I don't know, ask him to do a blog post. Why not? That's a cool solution. Mickey has another question. Oh, he's got a string of questions. Okay, let's just put them all in here. See what we got. We'll handle the quick ones. Oops. Why doesn't the copy paste work? Anyway. We'll try to handle them really quick. And folks, again, if you're like, hey, Avi, I'm waiting too long, try pre-submitting your questions next time, and I think that would work better. Formatted matrix makes it look like FS. I'm not sure what that means. Make it look like. Oh, okay. You explain what it is. That is first row and totals have dollar signs. Totals are double on. Oh, you're that Mickey. Are you that Mickey? Were we exchanging comments? I can't connect the dots today. Oh gosh, yeah, some of these are tough ones. So you know what? I'll for this one, when I see things like this, I'll tell you what my automatic response is. So I'll share a story. So we're working with the one of the Microsoft Finance teams, and we stepped in, and this was Power BI was kind of new, and we were of the opinion that we're gonna switch everything to Power BI. What an incredibly stupid idea that was, and I think that's still a stupid idea. Okay, because I really feel that Power BI, you want to create a model which is a single source of truth, which has, probably using query editor to clean shape transform, and it has the magic of measures. They're awesome. They're mind blowing. But from that point on, your model can be published anywhere, and that can be the single source of truth. And you shouldn't worry so much about your reporting layer. You want to be in a situation where you have complete choice over visualization tool. We don't have to think about 1 second, like, oh, I want to do this in Tableau. I want to do this in, I don't know, Click or something like that, and you can do it. And you can get really, really close to that, if not actually have that, by publishing to SSAS Tabular or PowerBI.com. You can connect multiple visualizations. So when I see things like this, I automatically think, man, this would be so much easier in Excel, and then why not do it in Excel? So that's kind of my first response. That, keep your data source in one spot. Could be PowerBI.com, could be published to SSAS Tabular or something like that. And then just connect an Excel report to it, a lightweight Excel report, not a copy of the data, which is going to have all of these formatting. And that's where Excel really shines, that granular control. But let me see if maybe I do have something to share with you. Okay, there we go. So let's talk about where you need ultimate control over the reporting layout, and you want to do it in Power BI. So you've heard my suggestion, and you're saying, Avi, thanks but no thanks, man. I got Excel, we have Excel reports, but somehow, due to some scenario, I need to do this in Power BI. I cannot choose a different UI tool. Fair enough. So let's go with that. So yeah, Miki submitted that in. Let me see. Okay, perfect. Let me bring that up. So this is Miki's question on YouTube, and again, guys, sometimes some of you provide me OneDrive link to a Power BI file. Miki published a report and had comments in there. Something like this is super helpful. So this what he's talking about is that he wants, in this scenario. So I know Miki had other questions in the YouTube chat, but let's just walk through this one. So here you have totals, great. Not totals, but whatever number. I don't know what this is. Sales, something like that. Counts, something like. And then you have kind of the totals at the bottom. And then we want to show these guys as percentage of row. That's it. And once I take this away, notice you would notice. Oh boy, what happened? Oh, I don't mean to click. Okay, so the way this has been done is two tables. And if you line them up right, and this one is hidden behind the other, I think I messed something up. This one was hiding the other one, which was better. Then you can kind of give the impression. But the challenge is that, as Miki points out, that this does not work very, very well when the number of elements changes, right? If you get more or less. And to demonstrate that, I have this report, and I have essentially recreated what Miki had in there, but in Adventureworks, glorious Adventureworks. So here we have the same setup. So we have the total here, and the same numbers shown as percentage. So you can see, 15,000 is about 50% of 26, so that's what the numbers are. And of course, it's using two tables. So, it works, but it's not great. And because when somebody does accessories, then notice that it's kind of off kilter. It's just there's too much empty space. Somebody does bikes, it's worse, and clothing is So it doesn't look great. We would want it to be side by side. And actually, I thought about it. So my question to Miki was that usually when somebody wants specific control, I say, guys, just do it in Excel. It's easier there. But frankly, even in Excel, I don't know if this is easy to do. Maybe short of macros. I'm sure you can write macros to kind of hide columns, rows between that or something. So macros can do it, but I don't know if without macros, there's a way to do it in Excel. But again, for now, let's just pretend that there's some reason that we need to solve this in Power BI. So we need to have this very specific report. Are you ready? All right, my friends, let's do it. Woo! Oh my God, I'm so excited. Check this out. Tell me what you think. Same reports, right? Same numbers, bike racks, and so forth. But we have the total here, right? And the same numbers and the total percentage. Are you ready? Are you ready for the test? Okay, let's click accessories. Notice how the total kind of stays with it. Your bikes, total stays with it. Clothing, total stays with it, right? I think it's a better solution if this is exactly what you wanted. Now, there's trade-offs, and there are often trade-offs. In Power BI, that's what I've realized. Frankly, it's kind of the general Microsoft approach that there are always more than one way to do things. And I enjoy that. I enjoy being able to kind of play with different options, not having somebody tell me that, oh no, you should do it this way. So there are always multiple ways to do things, but you got to weigh the trade-off. So the trade-off for this one is that normally when you define a measure, like this one, I think I'm using order count, then you can slice and dice it any which way you want. It's the magic of define once, use everywhere. You define it once, you never ever have to think about it again in your whole life, right? You go to your model and, oh, I want it by gender and country and this and that and ship date and order date and product. It's done. You don't go back and rewrite it ever again. That's magical. So, but for this one, I had to lose that magic. Now, this is something custom built. And I call it kind of the nuclear option. So again, I don't think Power BI is kind of built this way. Normally, I go to Excel, but I'll show you a little bit under the covers on how this is done. So for one, I built this layout, and the way I built this layout first is I said grab all the subcategories and then stick these two rows at the bottom, because those are the two special rows that we need, right? So I built that table first, and I did that in the query editor. I'll skip showing that for now, but I'll show you what that ends up looking like. So I said, this is my report. So again, this has been built by the query editor. And you notice here that it has a subcategories, and these are automatically generated from the product table, as they should be. I'm not typing them in or anything. But then these two are special, which I did add them in. And of course, these don't change, at least not in my scenario. So they are set. And you notice there is another number in there, 0, 1, 2. So it differentiates that these ones are something special. So you figure out your layout, and then you essentially do a giant if then else essentially, and you detect which row you're on, and based on that you show that specific measure. So let's look at the measures really quick. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but let's see what it looks like. So notice what's happening here. So instead of if then else, switch is a more elegant function. Switch is like an if then else, but what switch is saying that, hey, switch, figure out that what subcategory type is selected, which is basically, am I on a total row or total percentage row or just a regular subcategory row? If it's a regular subcategory row 0, then pretty much show the measure, product order count, right? And if I'm on the total row, which is signified by 1, then show something else and format it differently. Total percentage is formatted differently. Okay, great. And so great. So right, so that's how it's done. And notice I have complete control. So in this case, I have order count, but let's pretend that these were dollars, and I want the dollar sign only on the total row. And then I can just come in here and say, for this row, show me dollar. And now if I go back, what happened there? Oh, there we go. Yeah, so you can, it's the same measure. It's a text measure, by the way, if you didn't pick it up. And yeah, but this one is formatted as dollars, this one is formatted as percentage, so you have complete control, but it comes at a cost. The cost is that this is pretty kind of static, and you have to be kind of careful what you throw at it. If you wanted to do the same report but not by subcategory, you wanted it to be by territory, but the same layout, total percentage, guess what? It's not defined ones used everywhere. So I'm going to stop there and go back to these questions. So again, I mean, I would say, so for, in general, look to use Excel. If you can't, then I don't know, something like this might be hard. Again, his specific questions, fixed column width, unless you can find that option in the settings, it might not be there. How to create a forecast scenario which includes several months of actual plus future forecast months. I believe this can be done in DAX, but I'm still learning, so not be able to do it yet. Lovely, love it. And I'll make that quick because that's coming in my finance Power BI series. So if you're not in the know already, I'll show you my course a little bit. So the way I do things is I record stuff for my class first. That's coming in. Oops. I record stuff for my class first. So I have recorded a series of 7 videos already for the financial dashboard. And the class already has it. They have the complete download files. And then I drip them out on YouTube. And sometimes I don't release all the videos. Like the calendar table, I have more videos, a lot more videos here than you would find on YouTube. Yeah. So financial reports and statements, and boy, so 2 of the videos are already on there. And let's see. In this series, we're going to try to. So this is, I believe, what you're talking about. So you're saying, I want to build a line showing kind of actuals, right, which is this line, and then it continues on to show forecast. Huh? What do you think? I think that's super cool, right? And that way you can say, yeah, so not only do you have give me a better word. I'm thinking like looking in the past. So this is all that happened. This is all what happened last month. This is what happened kind of quarter to date. This is what happened year to date. But this is all looking back. But then we have forecasts as well, and we can paint an year-end picture. Year-end picture. Notice it says year-end over here. And say, hey, based on the actual so far and the best forecast we have, the most current forecast we have, this is where the year is going to end up being. This is what the budget said that we should be, and hence this is the variance, right? So you do all that, you do graph, and of course the favorite part, you can slice and dice it any which way you want, right? You can say, oh, okay, what about this department? What about that department? And you don't have to make them click everything. You can just show the year-end picture and show by department that who's going to be under, who's going to be over. So all that sort of stuff. So yeah, so I'm not gonna. I think that's a slightly more complicated answer. So I'm gonna. Yeah, you might have to wait for the videos to trickle through. Is it possible to turn off the drill down buttons or right click options on the visualization? That one is easy. If you don't have drill down, then it's not going to have those. So just don't build it. Of course, your question might be that I want to keep it for myself, but I don't want others to have it. So here, the way drill downs work is by having multiple items in the axis. And the first time you do it, and they don't have to come from the same table. I can grab product category, subcategory, and stick in country in there. And that still works. And this is slightly confusing for beginners. Okay, it was confusing for me when I started. Like, I dragged something here and nothing changed in the graph, or it seemed like nothing changed. Now, of course, something did change, but it's in the drill down. So here now, if I go to bikes and drill down, and I go to road bikes and drill down, now I'm at country level. But if you do not want that drill down, just remove these guys here, and then there wouldn't be any drill down. So if you want to kind of keep it for yourself but not have others see it, then yeah, and again, I get the feeling that you want very specific control over the UI, and general advice would be to go with Excel. Now, I know for your specific case, it's like, Avi, I don't have a choice, but that's the general advice I would give to other folks. But good questions. What else do we have here? Let's see. Samuel is helping out. Awesome. Q formulas, whew, yeah. Q formulas are pretty insane. If you haven't discovered them, they give you a whole other level of flexibility inside Excel. Excellent point. In Yeah, that's great. What else is going on? Okay. So I should have read Mickey's whole comment. So he's explaining the drill down scenario and saying sometimes senior management need pre-curated and will drill down or up too many times in a visual and take away the original context. I do have the answer for that. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, guys. So hey, it's not just senior management. Although if you have created reports for senior management, you already know that you gotta dumb it down, right? I mean, because hey, those guys are busy. It's not like they're not smart, but they're busy. They're flying at high speed. So, but sometimes it happens to me that I click a slicer and then I kind of drill down over here, and then I'm lost, and I don't know how I got here, and I'm lost. So the way to solve this is to use bookmarks. And somebody help me out. Do bookmarks work on PowerBI.com? I would assume they do. Uh, what is it? A preview feature? Preview bookmarks. Yay! Ah, shoot. Okay, I'm gonna give you the quick version. So I'm not gonna be. I don't want to restart. Do I want to restart this? But with bookmarks, you can bookmark the original state without any filters, and then put I don't know, an image here, or can you do it with text? Maybe you can do it with text, or I know you can do it with an image, and the image can say something like reset, and they click on that, and that's linked to a bookmark which has bookmarked the initial state of the report. So that's the way I would typically do it. Of course, if you're publishing it to PowerBI.com, you don't need any of that. I would just recommend to teach your users to hit refresh. Just hit refresh, load the report again, and you're done. And that's the easiest solution. Bookmark is kind of the fancy one. Yeah. Mickey's saying they like their PDFs formatted nicely. Oh gosh. Yes, I was talking about in one of my classes earlier that, oh guys, remember the days where you had to, so I would be churning out a lot of Excel reports, and I was totally focused on where the line breaks were because these things used to be printed out. And I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I'm not living in this world, because now you have these modern reports which render automatically on mobile. They're responsive, mobile, tablet, whatever. They look gorgeous. But the reality is, not everybody is in that land yet. And I've heard from others that some folks are still kind of in the PDF land. Yeah, that was hard. So I'll throw out another challenge for you guys. Hey, if one of you can solve it, I'm frankly not that excited about it, but this comes from Mario, one of our students, and this one is quite a problem. And let's go back to a percentage example. So the task challenge, if you choose to accept it, is to round these off, round these percentage of row or whatever to nearest 5%. Huh? Okay, that's easy. That's easy, but here's what happens. Here's what happens. If you round it to the nearest 5%, it sometimes doesn't add up to 100%. You have three items there, and you round it, and whatever rounding thing happens, rounding logic, you can do round up, round down, doesn't matter. Inevitably, and based on combination of the data, if they're looking at by territory and the numbers change, they're looking at 2016, it's possible that you keep running into a scenario where it doesn't add up to 100%. So this is the killer, where you got to make it add up to 100%. And I mean, if you ask me, it's an interesting problem, but I feel like the right the right reaction should be to talk to those guys and say, hey, come on, man. I mean, seriously, is that what you really want? How much is that going to help you? So yeah, I hear you that yeah, sometimes you got to do what they're asking for, kind of thing. how to not show blank numbers in slicers. That one is somewhat easy. Let's go slicers. Where do we go with slicers? So slicers, if you notice that it shows blank, and sometimes it shows blank even if there are no blanks in the data set. In this case, I do, but sometimes it insists on showing blanks even when there are no blanks. There's kind of a I mean, I understand why it does it, but sometimes it's not desirable. Let's see if we have any blank data. So we don't have any sales data for blank, but it's showing blank. So I don't have a very smart solution. What I do is I add a visual filter to this guy. So I'll go category, and then let's see if I can do this. Can I do this visual? No, okay, so this wouldn't work. So I will do a page level filter, so not for slicers. And you have to make sure that that doesn't have any data. If it has any data, then you probably don't want to do it. And then, of course, you can just unselect blank. So it's saying category is not blank, and now it's filtered out. But again, the key is you have to be very sure that there's no data, there's no actual sales data or whatever you're showing coming in with the blank category, which is easier said than done because that changes over time. I mean, it cannot have any data today, but tomorrow the mappings get messed up and boom, 20 million is sitting there. And now your report looks much worse because they're looking at the total and it's clearly wrong. That's much worse than showing a blank row. So if you ask me, usually it's not worth the trouble. I don't do this. I let it show blank, and if people complain about it, I just shrug my shoulders. Like, yeah, Power BI does it. You're going to be far better with that than one day suddenly 3 million out of a 5 million sales number is ended up in blank because data got messed up. That's what data does. And now they're looking at your report and like, dude, I was in this meeting and it showed 2 million. So you can end up kind of really embarrassing yourself. So watch out for that one. Okay, so Pedro is regarding the drill through. I'm asking in the context of having on main page only slicer filters that lose their selection value. Oh, okay. Oh boy, sorry. So I'm not. It's kind of hard. I'm going through kind of sequentially, but then you guys respond back to the question I'm answering. Not. I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong. It's just me trying to catch up with it. So let's go back to that, and yeah, that seems odd. So let's review that. So Pedro is saying, let's go back to that question. In fact, so you have a slicer filter that lose their selection on proceeding with drill through. That sounds weird. So let's say we have I don't know, May. So I'm not sure exactly what the scenario is, but I think because I haven't seen it work that way. So May, as long as I select the slicer, it stays there. It's like a rock. So if I go to bikes and drill down, it still stays at May. Doesn't lose it. And of course in here, I can say show me mountain bikes, road bikes, touring bikes. So I'm missing a scenario. And sorry, I know. So inside our class, we don't use YouTube, of course. We use GoToMeeting, where you can share your screen and show me exactly what's going on. But unfortunately, we're not going to be able to do it for this call. So yeah, I mean, I'm not seeing that behavior. Mickey edit interactions. So Oswaldo has a curious question. Is it possible to mimic Excel slices in Power BI? Maybe that's a typo. Maybe he's talking about slicers. So yes, I would say yes. I believe the slicers here pretty much work the same way as Excel. Oh, okay. So slicers here, and which is hidden away in visualization, kind of counterintuitive, not very discoverable. I wouldn't look for a slicer in visualization. I don't really think of it as a visualization type, but hey, that's what it is. But once you find it, you know where to go for it. So that's, you just drag and drop a field, turn it into a slicer, and that's great. Yeah, I love slicers. I love them in Excel. I remember the first time I discovered them, I'm like, whoa! And then you discover those tricks where you can connect a slicer to all the pages or multiple pages. In Excel, you can do that. I wish you could do that in Power BI. Wouldn't that be awesome? So I know I did this in Excel where you only has slicers kind of on one page, and if I selected May here, then the next sheet and the next sheet and the next sheet is going to be connected to May as well. Yeah, I don't know. I've heard about this. I think it's on the ideas.powerbi.com site somewhere, and hopefully that comes. So, okay, you guys exchange email. That's awesome. Yeah, so Gilmar, you're saying in my multi-tenant application, every tenant has their own database. You might still be able to, on your side, just connect to all different databases, add the data together if it's the same structure, and then give them row level security. It's a little scary, I know, but that might be more elegant. Yeah, you know what? I'll ask. Hey, how about this? I'll ask my Microsoft MVP friends about this. So, multi-tenant. Where did that go? There we go. So I'm gonna ask them and see if anybody has any good solutions. Ooh, where did that comment go? There it is. And how do you... Oh, gosh, why doesn't this work? So I think I understand the scenario. So you're working with multiple tenants, each has their own database, and you just, if you have, I don't know, 10 clients or 20 clients on there, then, it's just kind of, how do you kind of automate and so forth. Actually, I might have an answer for you. So that may be a third party. So the third party tool is, the tool is called Power Update. And the company's name is Power On BI, and there is a connection. They saw my tagline Power On, and well, they were inspired by it, so they took on that name. And hey, imitation is the best form of flattery. So I'm glad that they're spreading on my message of powering on. So yeah, I know the owner Per Soli, great guy, amazing spirit. I have to say their website isn't that impressive, but it's an amazing tool. And do I have it still installed? I don't think so. Oh, I do have it installed. Yeah, so, oops, maybe not. Okay, so what Power Update can do, let's look at the screenshot over here. You can schedule the refresh of your Power BI PBIX files. And this refresh is really cool because it runs on your desktop. So it doesn't run on the cloud, which means that you don't have to mess with gateways and all that stuff. It's just simple. If you can open the file on that machine and hit refresh yourself, then this is going to work because that's what it essentially does. And then, so you can have a set of files on this, and I don't know, maybe you just tell Power BI Desktop, Power Update that, yeah, refresh this file and publish this on to, let's try that again. So you can say, yeah, refresh this file and publish it to this workspace. Refresh this file and publish to the second workspace. So you can kind of schedule that on a daily basis. That may work, but I'll ask my Microsoft friends for some answer. So Power Update. And hey, I don't get paid by this tool. I don't get paid by this company. I have used them a fair bit with my clients, and yeah, I mean, it's definitely worth looking. Man, I love it. Oh gosh, so guys, I have to say this is really awesome, and maybe it's about having a critical threshold of people. I have done talk Power BI calls where, yeah, there really wasn't anybody watching, but I still went through the questions that I'd collected through emails or whatever that came in, and I connected them. But I see what's happening here is that you are helping each other out, and there's this line that I read somewhere which said, the smartest person in the room is now the room itself. And that goes doubly for me because I'm often not the smartest guy in any room. even in a Power BI gathering. And if you ask me, I'm not that great at Power BI, uh, and my talent is to break things down, to break complex things down into simple pieces so I can understand it. And then, of course, one day I discovered that, oh, that means I'm good at teaching as well because I can take that same approach that worked for me and turn around and give it to my students. So things like filter context. And the day I finally understood it, when I was able to break it down, I had that as one of those mind blown moments because I was like, this is so simple. I mean, if you have gone in Excel and used the filter button, then you know what filter context is because that's all there is. Now, of course, there's other stuff like why does it feel like it's hard? On my channel, if talking about filter context, if you want to do more, then there's a series of I can videos, and it's talking about the approach to understand any DAX function. Where is it? Where is it? Oh, right here, I can. Or just go on my channel and search for I can. And it has this 4-step rule to understand filter context, which is right here. Incoming filters, calculate does its magic, apply relationships, and finally do the numbers. So it's filter context feels complex because it's a combination of a lot of different things, but it's not. So anyway, long story short, that's kind of what I do. But the best part is when, and again, I see that in my student community as well. That's certainly big enough. So we have crossed 100 plus students. Not all of them on Facebook. Some are Facebook at worst. So on Facebook, we are really close to 100, but that means a lot of students can help themselves. And I see the same thing going on in the chat window, and that is awesome. Love it, guys. So yeah. Okay, let's see. Page two. Mickey, okay. Oh boy, let's see, where did I leave things off? Murli has a question which I don't know the answer for. Maybe you guys can help him. So Murli is asking, why does it do that? So Murli is asking, is there a way to disable the save button in Power BI Embedded? Huh. Okay. Oh, Gilmore already answered that. Yeah, I'm definitely not the smartest guy in this room right now. So Gilmore said, Murli embed with read-only permissions. Perfect. In embedded report, we can edit the reports. Okay. Overview of Power BI Embedded. Yeah, Karina, I can't help you with that. I think it's, so Power BI Embedded, maybe. I think the next thing on my list is Power BI Report Server. I did understand the licensing scheme, so I had done a video on my site about Power BI Premium and the cost structure. So I understand how the licensing works, and I know one of my students in my class is using Report Server. Actually, 2 of them are, and they have had good things to say about the Report Server, which I was frankly surprised. I expected it to be like a V1 product, but they're really happy with it. Of course, the part that they're happiest about is that they don't have to pay for licensing. They don't have to worry about the $10 Power BI Pro. They don't have to worry about Power BI Premium. Now, these guys already have a SQL Server Enterprise with software assurance license, but that means they have Report Server. So they're like, whoa, let's do this. Let's set it up, and we can share reports without having to worry about the Pro and the Premium. So they're loving it, and I want to just install it and play around with it. Power BI Embedded, I'm not sure. So guys, in general, I look at it from the business user perspective. I talked about that IT versus business divide. And so I have lived pretty much all my life on the business side. I've lived some part of it on the IT side, so I know those pains as well, but I know these ones really, really well. And I focus on that. So I look at things from that lens. Like, would a business user be interested in that? And when I look at it from that lens, Power BI Embedded, not so much. So yeah, so it's a little bit of a stretch for me. Now, of course, what I envision, my friends, in the new world that we're gonna create, you and I right here, folks on this chat, YouTube Live, is a world where this versus is gone, because that's bullshit, really. We're all part of the same company, working with the same company. Why should there be a friction? But first step is to acknowledge that there is a problem. So let's start there and then see if you can resolve it, because I think in the new world you can. So I talk about that it's not about the tool, it's not about Power BI and blah, 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 right? But then why am I teaching Power BI? So I believe that the challenge is that tool is not going to be, no tool is going to be a magic wand. No tool is going to solve all your problems. So Power BI is like, oh, we got Power BI, all the problems are solved, and everybody is like singing kumbaya or whatever. It doesn't work that way. So a good tool, the perfect tool even, would not solve all your problems. It's not a magic wand. There never is. There isn't such a thing out there. But a bad tool can definitely hold you back, can definitely be a killer, can make it a non-starter. So imagine if you're gonna dig a foundation for a building or something like that, and all you had was a teaspoon. It's not gonna be fun. But if you had the excavator, well, now you have to learn how to use excavator and so forth, but you're on a good start. So I think what we've had in the past is we had a split set of tools. Excel, with this blazing speed, it was really, really fast for the business user to conjure up anything, but it didn't scale well. As you added more complexity to it, it just kind of died under its own weight. And on the IT side, there were tools which were amazing. The whole SQL stack is there, and of course all the non-Microsoft tools, but they were often not agile enough. And you had this business user comes asking for something, and IT says, talk to the hand, or come back 6 months later, and maybe you'll have it. So the not having the right tools was holding back. So right tool doesn't solve everything for you, but not having the right tools does hold you back. So now I think we have in Power BI a combination of that strength and agility, which can pave the way for this brave new world, my friends. So, but I'm definitely still on the business side of things there. Okay, that was my spiel about that. Samuel has been helping out. Awesome, appreciate that. So Miki, yep, they like PDFs. So Samuel has a great comment, and he's saying, actually, so Samuel's comment is, you can play them as a presentation story. And I think that's the next level, folks. So I often talk about, so more drawing. Sorry, Microsoft has done this to me. That I talk about this 3-part series where you say, you author a model, and you publish, and you consume. And really, for me, I often say that the magic is in this part. You got to get this right as well. But in author, you're doing 2 things. One, you're focused on the query editor where you clean, shape, transform, and then you focus on your model where you define your relationships and you define all your measures. And I said, yep, that's 80% of the work. But I realized that the visualization part that comes after is equally important. And the visualization part is, I think, different. It's a bit of art plus science. And for the art portion, my mentor is Stephen Few. Stephen Few, Information Dashboard Design. That's the book that I have. That's kind of my Bible. He has a new book, but I love the old one. So yeah, what Samuel is going, that you got to be able to tell a story. You got to be able to tell a story, and that makes it so powerful. So it's kind of a crazy world. You can do the work that would have taken like 4 different teams. So you can learn clean shape transform, build the model, build visualization, and tell a story. Why not? Why not? Okay, so Samuel is sharing tips with Miki. Samuel is talking about they have a monthly report back, which they need in PDF, and they use Excel and macros to generate PDF. And that's where I love kind of that Excel world. And of course, you can do it now in the new world. You can have all that Excel reports connected to the single source of truth. A single model could be anywhere. Could be on PowerBI.com, could be on SSES Tabular, Azure Analysis Server, whatever. But your reports are that thin layer where you're not doing any heavy lifting. You're just creating graphs and charts and whatever cube formulas, all this sort of stuff, and you create it just the way you want, but it's connected to that same source. Why is that powerful? For one, imagine you made a mistake, and now you don't have to fix it in like 100 different Excel sheets flying around. Just fix it in your model, and boom. As soon as you refresh everything else, it's fixed. So that's powerful. So yeah, that combination of that world, Power BI plus Excel, that's where the amazing stuff happens. Okay, so I see Miki's problem. I think now they're trying to sell Power BI as a reporting solution. Actually, that's a great one. I say that earns a Power BI Pro Power On badge right away. I can say that. Uh, so the Power On badge goes to those questions which seem, or in this case, a statement. He's not even asking a question, which are innocuous, which like yeah, this is simple. But then that sparks a deeper thought or a deeper discussion, which I saw Miki's comment, and I'm like, but boom, this is huge. So, guys, a lot of you, I don't know a lot of you, but yeah, you would be in a situation where you're trying to sell it. And in some ways, we're always selling. Every time you show your Power BI report, you're selling it, and somebody can kind of shoot it down. And so you're trying to showcase Power BI in your organization. And so Miki is trying to do some of those reports in Power BI and show that how it's different. And so I'll just throw out my opinion. Whenever I do Power BI proof of concept, things like this, whenever I'm in selling mode, I'm like, I need to sell this. Oh boy, I think we need a page of its own. So let's grab that. So let's do page 3 and put. So by the way, Miki, congratulations on earning the Power On badge. Boy. So if I'm trying to sell Power BI in an organization, and I believe in a proof of concept, which means that I want to build something quick. Better to ask for. Sorry, I messed that up. So hey, I'll just kind of tell you my stuff. Ooh, thank you. Want to say hi? So school is off today, and we're heading out to get skis for her. We're looking forward to a good skiing season. Okay, all right. So you're trying to sell Power BI within your organization. So first of all, guys, don't ask for permission. You don't need to. Just build something. And again, this is totally my opinion. I mean, use it at your own risk. But I would just build something. You don't feel like you need this corporate authority. No, we're just trying. We're just playing it. And if you don't put any data on the cloud. And if worst case scenario, if you can't install Power BI desktop on your machine, do it on a home computer. Don't use a company data set. Use a simulated data set which looks like the company data set. I mean, do whatever you need to do, but definitely don't ask for permission because you don't need it. Just go forth and do it. Build something and build something quick. This is not a 6-month project. Please, those days are over. Power BI is Agile BI. Build something in a week, maybe in a few weeks, in a month. If you definitely get the help of some consultant or somebody, like me, my typical engagement would be on a matter of days. So we would go in there. 3 days was a long engagement for me. Typically, we would descend there, parachute in, and build something in 2 days. And it would be a working solution. It would be a working solution. It's not like this beta thing that, but it only works for a day. This would be something they can run with. So that's the way you approach it. And I like building something new, not recreating old reports. And I'll tell you more about that. So I'm building something new, not recreating old reports. And, oh gosh, I had another thought. And it needs to be complete. It needs to be end to end. You can't say that, oh, I did the data cleanup and look how awesome it is. Look at the query editor engine. That's bullshit, my friends. That's not going to get you anywhere. I mean, that's valuable, but nobody who has, kind of authority, the C in their title or something like that, CEO, CFO, CMO, whatever, they're not going to see it. So it needs to be end to end. It needs to go from collecting data to creating the model to creating the visualization, because that's what they're going to see. What I would advise you not to do is put lipstick on a pig. So I've seen, and I'm sure you've seen this, people have the messiest of whatever goes for data model in their work, right? So they have this messy Excel file, just oh gosh, I mean, they hate it, right? And they grab some data from it. Maybe they copy paste it or link a final report from that messy Excel file and put that in pretty Power BI graphs. I think that's the most horrible kind of sin you can commit. So it looks like you're in Power BI, but you're still in data hell. It's just as bad as it gets. So you can get away with that, and I think maybe unscrupulous consulting companies sometimes do that as well, where they just, look, Power BI, and I'm like, no, look under the covers, and it's messy. You have to go kind of end to end. So do not put lipstick on a pig. Don't just try to do pretty visuals. It's not about that. So you're doing end to end, connect to data, clean up, build the data model, create visualizations, and then so this is something. Let's say you didn't ask for permission, you just built it, and you're done in a week, and now this should become a shining beacon to one and all, and just show it around. And it should be at this point a working report which you can refresh. Oh, of course, so I missed one point. So I focus on something new, not recreating old reports, and I got to talk more about this. And for the new, I focus on easy in the new world, hard or impossible in the old world. And once you start thinking about it, once you kind of scratch the surface of Power BI, you would realize that there are so many examples of this. It's just unlimited. There are so many scenarios which would have been really hard or impossible that everybody was never encouraged to solve or tackle or even think about, which are like, oh, that's easy in Power BI. Yeah. So there are some examples where relationships can do that for you. So just doing relationships instead of trying to do a VLOOKUP. Time intelligence is a great example, and there are tons of other stuff. Distinct count, and that's one thing. Like Excel distinct count was so hard, and now it's so easy. So I built something new, and I focus on something which is easy in the new world, but was hard in the old world. Now, what all of this gives you is something impactful. Boom. Right? So you solve the problem which they've been talking about for a year. So I'll share a quick story with one of my clients. This was a healthcare company, and this was a 3-day engagement, and man, we worked long days. But at the end of the third day, I was showing my final solution, and they would start clapping. And frankly, I was a little red in the cheeks. I'm like, why are they clapping? The story I heard later on was that what we had built there in those 3 days was something they had been they have been talking to IT for the last 1 year. That's what you want to go for, right? Hard and impossible in the old world. Maybe they talked about it, nobody thought it was good. Right? But easy in the new world, you do it in a few days. So you have solved the problem and you have a finished product. You have the dashboard. And since you're building something new, I'm not going to try to recreate my Excel world. So I see the problems, and you see the problems that Miki is struggling with, right? So it's like, hey, how do I do this? How do I do column width size? Because that's the old world. And Power BI, this is the world that you're going to inhabit, I think. So this is what we ended up with our finance team. We ended up with Power BI plus Excel, and Power BI didn't have any of these detailed reports. We kept that in Excel, but we built something new, brand new for them in Power BI, which was mobile, which was interactive, and you target a different problem. So you don't recreate the report. You say, hey, so I'll tell you, in our case, the Microsoft Finance team ended up using that Power BI report for their monthly meetings. And that was phenomenal, because now this was not a bloody PDF. This was an interactive thing, and it was visual, it was pretty, and they didn't have to walk out of the meeting with gazillion action items. They could say, oh, let's see, and now obviously this is silly Adventureworks data. How do I, oh, there we go. They didn't have to walk out with 20 different action items. They could say, oh, let's see what happened in December, and they would click, and they would find the answers if you set up the report right. So again, you build a different report because they have never seen Power BI. It's gonna be a transition, be something new, and it's gonna meet the needs that they maybe didn't think that they had. Right? I mean, they were used to seeing that detailed reports, and they're like, yeah, that's what I want, that's what I really need, but that's not true. They may ask for that, but I think the best solution typically is a combination where you have these high-level, beautiful, visual, interactive reports in Power BI, and then you still have the detailed pivot tables, all of that in Excel. Okay, so you can see that why this one earned the Power On badge, because, gosh, a lot of people are struggling with this, and I think a slightly different approach may be better. So again, sometimes it's not possible. You got to do what you got to do. So Miki might be stuck, but I would certainly encourage you to kind of think outside the box and don't feel like you have to just recreate the old thing. Because so let's talk about recreating old reports. So that's usually, I would not mince my words. I think that's usually a terrible idea, because for one, you recreate something, and in one way you get zero value out of it, or zero perceived value, because you might have done some fancier things under the hood, but people often can't see it, they can't fathom it, they can't grasp it, they can't appreciate it, right? So you say, hey, here's a report in Excel, and now here's in Power BI, and it's awesome. And they go look at it like, no, it's not. I mean, I like my Excel report. What's wrong with that? Yeah, I mean, so you paint yourself in a corner. You did something which is kind of same but not the same, and they're already used to Excel. And folks, here's the thing. Change is hard. Even if you know change is for the better, even then it's hard. So that's what you're dealing with. Even if people realize that Power BI is good for them, even then you're going to see pushback. Why make it harder for yourself? So in here, you're positioning themselves to resist back, to push back, to say, no, that old thing is good enough. So I would caution everybody else to not walk that path. Don't try to recreate new reports when you're trying to sell Power BI. Do something new, build something amazing, and run with that. So, all right. Whew. You can see I get excited about this stuff. Miki will have this solution using comment. Okay. Yeah, so Miki, that is a good approach. Great. I'm catching up to all the conversation you guys have been having. Let's see. So Samuel is like, yep, that's what they kind of deal with. Yep. So single source of truth is amazingly powerful. And again, sometimes your management can get it, sometimes they may not. If you think they can get it, sell that. That hey, single source of truth is not about visualization. If you can sell that, if you think your management is open to that, then that's a slam dunk. Don't even talk about visualization. Say, hey, you know what? These two reports, people walk into a meeting room and their numbers don't match. Come on, guys. Come on. It's the 21st century. But, those are real problems. Those are real problems, my friend. Happens all the time. And I was within Microsoft for 6 years. It happened often enough. Not all the time, but people wouldn't agree. People couldn't agree whether last year or this year we came ahead of last year or behind last year, or whether we were did earn more revenue this year than last year or not, and you would see people arguing like, no, this is the number and not. So this happens in Microsoft, and everybody's in the same boat. Wow, great. So yeah, again, I'm catching up to the conversation. Yeah, so Mika says that he loves Excel. I love Excel as well, and frankly, that's the reason why I love Power BI, because it lives in this world of Power BI plus Excel. Ahmed is having trouble connecting to dataset. Brajendra has a question. Whew. Okay, hey, so 12 o'clock, the ski swap starts. That's kind of the ski flea market. And so I think we have time. And let's do 12. Oops, too small. I think I'm going to change this. The PowerPoint can't contain this awesomeness. We're going to change this to maybe a OneNote document or something. Someone is asking, I'm having trouble connecting to a secure website that includes tabular data. Credentials work in browser, but don't seem to get through connect to web dialog. I'm not sure I can help with that. Secure website. Oh boy. Yeah, sorry. I mean, again, kind of inner class, sometimes my students just share their screen and show what the problem is, and then we can tinker around, but short of that. What I'll say, I'll maybe ask my Microsoft friends, see if they can help. And maybe I'll try to connect to some secure website and see if that works at least. How to fetch big data. Yeah, so that is Brajendra. Brajendra, glad to see you on the call. Brajendra is inside my Learn Power BI program. So, of course, we get our weekly Thursday calls. And And of course, they can join on me on Fridays as well. Talk Power BI. Awesome. Glad to see you guys here. Always good to see friendly faces in the virtual crowd. So I think the answer to this is partitions, but the challenge is that it's only available right now in SSAS Tabular. I hope to make it available in Power BI Desktop as well. So what partitions do is you look at your sales table and it has 50 million records, and you say, please don't fetch 50 million records. Most of it is old data, is not going to change, and only fetch the last day or the current month, something like that. Power BI Desktop, I don't think it has it. So partitions, SSAS Tabular. You can set up two partitions. One is for historical data, which doesn't change, or sometimes what is called, and I feel so proud, geeky, I guess. I know the term for that. It's called late arriving fact. Hey, how cool is that? Throw that around in a dinner party. Late arriving fact. So sales, it's possible that sometimes some thing that happened last month was not recorded, but then somebody punches it in manually or something like that. More common scenario is that somebody makes an adjustment and they say, oh, no, that transaction was not right. We recorded the incorrect value and they post an adjustment. So even for historical data, it can change. So data for last year, something like that. Sometimes things get restated, all of that. So what you do is you do two partitions. And you partition one, kind of the historical, you refresh only once in a while. So, kind of once a week, once a year, whatever you want, once a month, something like that. And partition two has the recent data, and that you can set up for a daily refresh. Okay, hope that helps. So Meg is saying that they're using Power Update to refresh SSAS Tabular from PowerBIPro, great tool. Yeah, okay. So Miki liked my digging with a teaspoon example. Yeah, so Miki has a good comment. So funny how we blame Excel for problems, but now we're relying on Excel even now. Yeah, so I get what they say, but man, I say that's the best of both worlds. So people often come to me, and usually this comes up in a discussion about Power BI versus Tableau or ClickView and something like that. And I just say, forget about that. Tell me how many years of Excel experience do you have? And they say, man, I've been using it for 15 years. And then I say, okay, how many, if you think about your team, how many years of cumulative experience do you have on your team? And they say, whoa, man, that would probably be 100 plus years. And I then just say, you want to throw all that away? You want to throw away 100 years of experience with Excel? And that's good stuff. Yeah, so there's nothing inherently wrong with Excel. It's an amazing flexible tool, but it doesn't scale well with complexity, not without the Power BI inside. So the new Excel, the modern Excel, has Power BI inside. It has Power Pivot, which is the same technology, and it has the query editor, the Power Query, all of that. So it has Power BI built in. So now it's more robust. But earlier, the old Excel was very flexible, but didn't have the strength. So now we get the best of both worlds. We get the strength of Power BI, and you can use it any which way you want. You can use it inside Excel. You can use it inside Power BI Desktop. You can use it with the Visual Studio SSD tab. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you're authoring it. You get the magic of Power BI, and you get that strength. You get that awesomeness, mind-blowing awesomeness of define once, use everywhere, magical measures. Man, I mean, that's just, gosh, please, somebody give it to me, right? So that is, you get that awesomeness, you get that strength, and why not still keep the agility of Excel? Excel was always great at that. That was never a problem point for Excel. Anything you want to do, you could, but you kind of twisted yourself in these weird contortions trying to do things which should have been done and solved in a data model. So that's the way I see it. And yeah, sometimes that's a kind of a weird sell. They say, what are you trying to sell me? Are you selling me Power BI or are you selling me Excel? And I really think Power BI plus Excel is the best approach. So again, maybe go with that hey, you don't want to throw away your 100 plus years of Excel experience. You can keep all that, and you can keep doing amazing things you were doing in Excel, but now all the rough edges, the problem areas, they're going to be smoothed out. They're not going to be this confusion of version 1.2 and emailing sheets around or whatever. It's going to be one source of truth, and then Excel reports, whatever you want to create, and these awesome modern Power BI reports as well. So best of both worlds. What else? Okay, all right. So Tim joined, may not be on, but I'm glad the timing was right. So Tim is saying, only able to stop by for a couple of minutes, but you have just solved one of my problems. Excellent timing. Awesome, great. Glad to help. Whoa. Oh my God. So Steve has, and I'm not sure if this should be awarded the Power On badge. The Power BI Pro Power On badge, but because this earned a Power On badge, I'll award this anyway. Because this was asked yesterday on our call. And actually, you know what? Let me just pull that up. Can I do it? Open. Oh yeah, live calls. So the same question was asked earlier, and I'm going to frame it for you guys. And you can see this was asked by Samuel. And we always joke that most of the good stuff in our live calls happens, later. So this question came. This was one of the last questions we answered, and this is mirrors Steve's question. Was saying, hey, I'm dealing with this decision. I have 5 different reports that use pieces and parts from each. Deciding, should I put that in a single model or should I keep it separate? And as you've heard me say before, that in the Microsoft ecosystem, you can do things multiple ways. And that's, I think, in general, if you look at kind of in general, Apple versus Microsoft kind of philosophy, Apple tells you, hey, you got to do this and you got to do it, right? But Microsoft, it's all about choice, it's all about different ways. And that's great. I like that. I grew up on that, so I like that. But the challenge is, I think it's exciting part that if there are multiple ways, you got to weigh the trade-offs. So it's not about whether one is right or wrong, whether you should or you should not put in a single model. It's about being able to weigh those options. What would happen if I put in a single model? What do I gain? What do I lose? What would happen if I keep it in separate reports? What would I gain? What would I lose? And I love it because I don't have to cover. I mean, we covered this yesterday, and it earned the Power On badge because it started off with a casual discussion, but man, we went on for quite a bit. So let's talk about the example that I used yesterday and I'll use today is I was working within Microsoft Learning, and we had 4 lines of business. We had certification, exams, and all this stuff. A lot of you would be familiar. We had a Microsoft Press. A lot of you would have those books. We had e-learning, which wasn't, actually Microsoft Virtual Academy, that was a big thing. And 4th one was courseware. Did I get that right? I think so. So 4 lines of business, and we had a choice, just as you guys do, just as pretty much every single one of you is going to face at some point or the other. You have a choice to build 4 models for each of those, or combine it all in one model, right? And again, it's not about whether you should do this or that. You should know the trade-off. So let's go with a separate model approach. Separate model. What do you get? What do you gain? What you gain is speed. Whoa, this is going to be fast. So I have 4 lines of business. When I work with Press, They give me the requirements. They say they want this, they want that. I build it in. One of my favorite incidents, event story happened when a Microsoft Press person walked to my office and was standing at the door and said, hey, Avi, we had this data from Amazon. We're thinking about putting it into our Press book so we can see this, blah, blah, blah. And I said, stop right there. Take a seat. And I had her take a seat, point me to the data source. I connected to the data source, pulled it into the report, into the model, defined some measures, put it in a report. I said, is that what you want? And she said, no, not quite this. And I thought, oh, that's a quick fix. Went back, changed the measure, tweaked the measure, and boom, we're done. That's the kind of amazing speed we're talking about, right? Woo! Feels great, feels awesome. But you lose something. Inevitably, you're going to end up duplicating things. Things are going to end up which are similar. Simple example, calendar table. So if you've seen my Ultimate Calendar series, that wasn't, Rome wasn't built in a day, my friend. It took me many months to mature my thinking and discover it by trial and error and to build that calendar table. And if I had 4 models, I would have to keep updating each one of those 4 models. And even for tables like product, you would sometimes end up with, oh, these are test products, they need to be excluded, and now you have 4 things to deal with. What if you make a mistake in your logic and now you got to fix in each one of those? And this is not a copy-paste thing. It's not as easy as that. Because if you have 4 models, this is what's going to happen. you have a product table in each one of those, or account table, or whatever, but your Microsoft Press team is going to come to you and say, you know what, we really like seeing this attribute in product and that, and can you do this and can you do that? So you end up with 4 different flavors of product table. They kind of have the same data, but they're different. So now if you need to make a change or make a fix, you can't just make it in one place and copy paste to others. No, you got to say, oh, I added this from Microsoft Press. Let me make this fix. It becomes a bit nightmarish. And another challenge is that you might not think about it. You might not think you need it right now, but I will guarantee you at some point you're going to need to show the data side by side in these different models if you have different models. And even more than that, you might have to do hybrid measures or calculations across those. So if I had 2 different models, one covering the courseware, let's say, the courseware, and one covering the exams, and now I wanted to show them side by side, how would I do that? Now you can do that on a dashboard, but that's not a great way to show it because there's no interaction. You can't say, oh, now I want to see May, June. It just doesn't work. You want to be able to show it in a single report, and you can't do that if you have multiple models. Now you have a choice. You can create a third model, another model, which combines the components of these 2 models maybe in a summarized way and builds this side-by-side report. But you see where that's going, right? More complexity. Yeah, cross calculations, like if I want to see for every 1,000 students who took a course, how many took an exam? Things like that. That's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about hybrid measures. So you go, for every 1,000 people who saw my ad, how many bought? Things like that. So different data set, but I want to combine those 2. I want to slice and dice them on a composite measure, on a hybrid measure. You cannot do that. So those are the trade-offs. Those are the trade-offs on that road. In one sense, this, I would say, in a worst-case scenario, can lead you back to the same data hell that you were living in, where you have multiple sources of truth and it's just kind of nightmarish. And yeah, so that's that path. What about a single model? Well, let's talk about the downside first. So this had speed. Well, this one is going to be slow. It's going to be formal. And I talked about this yesterday, and I spaced out on Anakin Skywalker's name, but since somebody helped me yesterday, I know it. And my journey of keeping this one model unfortunately felt like this IT versus business battle. And I started off in business. I was fast. I was nimble. But since I had one model, and if Microsoft Press came to me and said they needed a change, I couldn't just make them sit down, take a seat, and do that change. I had to think about it. I said, no. Okay, great. I got your request, but I'm going to check with the other 3 teams, and see if it's okay with them. And so it looks like we might be able to get it this month. If not this month, then next month. You see where I'm going with this? And pretty soon you have a backlog of things. And now you're giving them the IT answer of talk to the hand, which is, yeah, come back in 6 months and maybe you'll have it. And I felt like I had gone, like Anakin Skywalker, I had gone to the dark side. I'm like, this is not fun. This is not what I wanted to be. I wanted to be this nimble guy helping business all the time. But hey, that's the trade-off you get with one model. But you don't have any of these problems. There's no redundancy. There's a single model. There's, showing data side by side is really easy. Showing correlations, doing hybrid measures is easy. So that's the benefit you get. There's another aspect that you got to deal with. If you go with the one model route, then you're going to deal with challenges, or you're going to have to solve problems which you probably would not encounter as separate models. For instance, at some point you might need to scale up. And for us, that meant SSAS tabular. So if your data in 4 different scenarios was each 50 million rows, now you have 200 million rows, or maybe you end up with 500 million rows if you combine everything in one model, and you might have to scale up. That's one aspect. And another is documentation. And I was pretty diligent about documentation. I'm not going to say too much about it, but my approach is lazy documentation. So I like my models to be self-documented. So I would leave my documentation essentially inside the model itself. And of course, the other thing which Brajendra, I think, was asking about was, no, actually not Brajendra, but if you end up with one model, we ended up with, I think, 50 plus tables, 600 measures. That becomes really complex for somebody to consume. it becomes really complex for you to understand at all time and make a change. And of course, what you want to build, my friends, is not something that you're using. This is not for you. I don't build models that way. Maybe the first model I built was that way, but I learned my lesson pretty quick. It's about empowering others. So when I build a model, I want all the users out there to be able to go in there and build their own reports. But imagine if you're a new user and you open up something and it has 50 tables, 600 measures. It's overwhelming. You cannot learn it. And that's where perspectives come in, which you can do in SSAS Tabular, which gives you a window. So instead of seeing the 50 tables and 600 measures, you say, no, I'm in Microsoft Press, and I only want to see those press tables. And now you get 5 tables and, I don't know, 25 measures. It's a lot more manageable, easy to understand, easy to work with, easy to create a report. And those all make sense to you. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I want to see how many books sold and all that stuff versus all the other stuff, which is for other teams. So yeah, I mean, for better or worse, the answer to that question is the lawyer answer. If you typically ask a lawyer any question, the answer is always, it depends. It depends, my friend. So it depends. And so those are the trade-offs, and you will have to choose your path. I chose the one model path, and I advocate the one model path. That's it's harder. It's harder, but I think with the multiple model approach, you can end up in a bad place. Okay, all right. So let's see what else is going on. Gosh, we crossed the 11 a.m. mark, so we've been going on for 2 hours. That is awesome. What else? What else did I want to say? Oh, I want to see if you guys are still on. What? You guys are still on? All right. What else? Andre, hit me up with the... Okay, so I just... there's no... Okay, great. Meg is talking about... Gosh, I really need some water. Where did my water bottle go? Oh, here it is. We have a shared dimension model in PP. Oh, that's great. So Meg had a comment about the one model versus multiple model thing. November 10th. Wow, this is cool. So yeah, so Meg is talking about that they are keeping a single model, and I used that approach for a while. So where I used Excel and Power Pivot as an authoring tool, and then we published it to an SSAS model. You can do that kind of manually. You can do that using Power Update, which I think Meg's earlier comment said they do use. And yeah, at some point I couldn't keep developing it in Excel, and I switched to Visual Studio, which was incredibly scary until I had done it. Once I switched to Visual Studio, I'm like, hey, this is the same as Power Pivot. And the advantage that gave me was that at some point my Excel model was too big. So Meg, I don't know if you have that challenge, but if you keep building in Excel plus PP and then sending it to SSAS, at some point my Excel file was so big that it was just a nightmare. I mean, every save, every refresh. And once you move to Visual Studio, you are liberated from that, my friend. It's amazing. It feels great. So let's talk about 2 transformations. The first transformation, and guys, this is not easy. I realize that. It's hard to get. So I talk about, author, publish, and consume. And the transformation there is you separate, I don't know why I'm doing it here. So let's talk about 2 transformations. So transformation 1 is, and those who get it, they're like, Avi, what are you talking about? This stuff is easy. But for those who don't, it's kind of challenging. And it took me to walk through that path to understand it. So transformation 1 is author, publish, consume, and you essentially separate the model from reports. With me, right? I mean, this is awesome. Now you have just one report, one model that is the single source of truth. It lives on SSAS Tabular, lives on PowerBI.com, and you're liberated. Your reports are free. You can have hundreds, thousands of reports, however many you want. They can be in a tool of your choice. You're not stuck to using one tool. They can be in any tool you want. It could be Excel, could be Power BI, could be Tableau, whatever. Just go nuts. So you separate the model from the reports, and your reports are lightweight. They're thin. They're not doing the heavy lifting. The heavy lifting has already been done in the model by clean shape transform the query editor by measures. So that's one transformation. It separates the model from the reports. Are you ready for the next one? Maybe not, but I'll give it to you anyway. It's coming down the path. Transformation 2. Whoa! Separate model data from model metadata. Okay, so now I was in Excel Power Pivot building my model, and I was publishing it to SSAS Tabular. So I had gone through the first transformation, and then all the reports were connecting to SSAS. But why was this problematic for me? Because my Excel file kept getting bigger and bigger. I don't know. I mean, when are you going to say cry uncle? When are you going to say give up and say when it's 2 GB? No, probably well before that. You would say, you know what, this is too much. And that's when I went to Visual Studio. And that's what Visual Studio does. So if you think about it, your data model, Power BI Desktop is the same way. The model metadata, which is the query editor definitions, but more importantly, the measures and sort by column, all these small things, these are metadata. And these are actually stored separately from the data. So the data itself is what's actually in the rows, but imagine you can save that without the data. And you can kind of do that in Power BI when you save it as a template. It stores all the metadata, but not the data. And that's what Visual Studio does. Once you go to Visual Studio, when you author a model, it doesn't carry around the data with itself. The data sits actually in an SSAS Tabular server. And that's why if your model was, let's say, 2 GB, and it took you 10 minutes to save it, in Visual Studio, it would take you a second to save it because it's not saving the data, it's only saving the metadata. So you get the idea, or maybe not, right? So save that for later if that didn't make sense, but that's what I ended up doing. Great, so Steve is talking about how he did go and redo everything and helped forced him to use some of the query editor, some of the Power Query skills. And I see that all the time. It happens with me as well and with my students. So students go through my class and like, oh my God, Avi, I mean, I feel like I need to go back and redo all my models because I know so much more. And it happens with me as well. When I look at the earlier work that I've done with some of my clients, I sometimes cringe. I mean, sometimes it's okay. Sometimes I'm proud of myself. But sometimes I'm like, oh boy, I would do it differently if I were to do it now. But I think that's part of the journey. Yeah, you got to enjoy the journey, my friends. There's nothing waiting for us at the end, except the yeah. So yeah. I like Steve's comments. Steve is saying Excel is all about figuring out how to do something and then immediately think of a better way to do it. I think Power BI is somewhat more durable in that matter. So there's one video which I put out there where I encourage people to tune out, unsubscribe, don't follow the monthly updates. And I'm a victim as well, so I'm speaking from that space, not like where I struggle with that. It feels like the pace of change is so overwhelming. But one of my friends had said that Power BI is a slow-moving train which looks like it's going very fast. I don't know. Somehow that made sense to me. So yeah, the core concepts don't change. So Power BI, I really feel like you get the most value if you focus on the core stuff, clean shape transform and modeling. That's kind of 80% of that. Everything else, a lot of stuff that's going on right now is on the visualization side. And yeah, there are very few changes that have gone on over the past. I mean, you get a new DAX function or something like that. Query editor exposes something in but yeah, the pace of change there is much slower. So I think that's a good thing. That means I think you can give yourself permission to not feel like you have to constantly keep climbing up on the sand dune, because that's what it feels like. If you try to stay on top of Power BI, You can like, boy, I mean, I keep sliding back. So that's not the idea. You're not gonna kind of master Power BI, and it doesn't matter. You don't have to stay up to date on changes. I don't stay up to date on changes. And hey, guys, I mean, I've done well. Yeah, let's just say that. So okay, so yeah, so Meg is talking about, yeah, Visual Studio is a little scary step, but hey, when the time is right, awesome. Okay, whew. So you guys were moving faster than me. You guys were ahead of me discussing questions which I hadn't even gotten to. So that was terrific, though. That is great. I love that. Frankly, at YouTube, I'm not a huge fan of the fact that the chat doesn't endure. It doesn't save the chat. Once I end the live session, the chat goes away. I wish it would save it so others could see kind of what went on. But I truly appreciate it. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate all of you joining. And if you didn't hear me mention it earlier, you know what? Let me share some plans with you. How about that? So since you have hung out with me for so long, my friends, so the course that is where? So the window is coming soon. So December is when I am hoping to open enrollment for my course again. So if you're looking for that, that's kind of cool. If And the course, it has training inside. It's got really good training inside. You can see some of the comments that people just leave on YouTube. And again, my style is to kind of break it down into simple concepts. But then the key part of that is there are actually two key parts. So my goal with the course is to make sure that there's a ton of support in there so that you don't just learn Power BI, you do Power BI, my friend. You apply it. You apply it with your own data set at your own company. So we have a weekly call which you can join, and these are pretty interactive. This is this is everybody kind of jumps on. And did I have a screenshot of this? Yeah, you can see. I mean, yeah, they're on. They can share their screen. They can talk freely. They're not typing in comments. So those are pretty cool. And then we have our private Facebook group where, yeah, so we have 100 plus students in the course. We have close to 100 of them on, we have 95, I guess, in here. And yeah, there's a lot of back and forth and, mostly students helping each other out. and sometimes I step in. And I also do Facebook Live in here. So you can see I go live. How would I mute it? Okay, it's mute. So I go live, and you can interact through Facebook as well. So that's the course. And for next year, so you know how we have we do this Talk Power BI, which is in a way similar to what I do with my class. It's a watered down version of it. So with my class, they can talk, they can share their screen, but essentially it's the same thing. They ask questions, and I come up with the answer, or somebody else in that group comes up with answers. So Talk Power BI and the live Q&A call are kind of equivalent that I do with my class, but I did something new with my class, and I called it a day with Avi. And let me see if I can show my calendar. And I said I dedicated one day that, hey, this day I'm yours, and you can book one-on-one time with me. And this was free of cost. So, I mean, normally, of course, I charge hourly for if I'm doing consulting, any one-on-one work. But this was free to my students. Like, hey, just this day, and you can book time with me. And let me find the day we did it. The third, nope. Oh yeah, there we go. One day. So this was my day, and yeah, I had one-on-one meetings packed, and there were some gaps, but they were filled because most of our calls went longer. So it was pretty nonstop. It actually went on till 8 because yeah, things shift around. But yeah, they got one-on-one time with me. So the plan is, and you guys are here, so you can be the first ones to know, is to do a similar one for all of you, for all of my YouTube followers, where you can get one-on-one time with me. And yeah, so this was an experiment, and I didn't know how it would go, but I felt it was really powerful because I was able to help students with some things which I mean, it just had a different dynamic. I mean, group calls are great for learning because you don't only learn with your own questions, you learn by everybody else's questions. And you experience that in Talk Power BI as well. So those are great, the live Q&A calls, but this was just a very different flavor. So yeah, the plan is to do it with all of you, all of my followers, and just give you a day where you can book time with me and just for a one-on-one chat and hang out and talk. So that's coming. And I'm not a big guy on New Year resolutions. I don't believe them. I don't know if I've ever tried them. But this thought crossed my mind, and I'm like, whoa, I'm doing this. And I want to commit to it publicly right here, so I can't back off. So how about that, my friends? That is going to be my resolution. Maybe my first New Year resolution I would ever do that. I'm going to create 365 videos next year. And I'm super jazzed about it. Super jazzed about it. Now, of course, if you've seen the way I kind of do things, that I recorded so I record a set of videos, and some of them are going to be inside my class. Some of them are going to be on YouTube. So I don't know what the balance is going to be. But yeah, I'm going to record 365 videos because of you folks. You keep asking me these awesome questions, and I'm like, whoa, a video on that would be cool. What did I want to do a video on in this class? I liked one scenario. Anyway, so you get the idea. So that's it. That's kind of the update from me. Let me see if you had any other questions. Okay, so Audie loved it. Okay, glad. Hey, and I love having you guys here. Yeah, this is awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Reach out to me by email. So I'm not great at email. It's yeah. So, but I try to respond as much as I can. So my email is just avi@avisingh.com. I'll just type it in. And yeah, so you can absolutely reach out. Ankush has a good question. How to normalize data in the product category and subcategory level? Okay, I gotta go pick up my daughter's skis. Yeah, good point. So, first of all, let's frame the problem. And I'm not sure I would use the same wording, but let's go here. Okay, I'm opening up a new Power BI file. And I don't know what that is. So I wouldn't use the word normalize, because normalize, when I think about normalized from my limited SQL experience, well, okay, I spent quite a few years focusing on SQL, writing SQL queries, things like that. Never a database administrator, but I know enough, I think. I think of the normal forms, Boyce Codd normal forms, BCND, something like that. So BCND, Boyce Codd normal forms, and there is a first normal form, second normal form, third normal form is the database admin's favorite. And it's based on database theory, not modeling. It's not Power BI, and you should never use this in Power BI. Never ever use this in Power BI because it doesn't apply. Power BI is not a database, it's a model, it's a cube technology. So in databases, you would normalize things. So Ankur, I'm not saying you meant that, but I just want to kind of explain it to others. So what you do is that product, instead of one table, it's going to have product subcategory as a separate table and the product category as a separate table, and they would be linked. So that's how a third normal form might work. But I kind of get that, but yeah, that doesn't work here. So in here, you want to go for data modeling. And my best resource is, actually, just go to my channel and look for data modeling. And the way I think about it is, so typically you would hear the term dimension fact tables. I don't use that. I call this a fact, not a fact, but a data table, and I call this a lookup table. And you want this to have what's called a star schema, but I don't call it a star schema because please guys, don't arrange it in the form of a star. Just don't do that. Data tables, lookup tables, the who, what, where, when, how need to be on top. I mean, that's the first thing. If I I'm working with my student and they share their model, that's the first thing I call them out on. They show me the relationship diagram and they haven't organized the lookup tables at the top, the who, what, where, when, how, and the data table at the bottom. I'm like, slap on the wrist, my friend. You flunked my class. So please do it this way. Just makes sense. Just gets you thinking about it the right way. So this is what you want, and you do not want a product subcategory or product category. And you don't have to. You can flatten it using query editor. So I would use a query editor and just flatten it in. Essentially, kind of a VLOOKUP, a merge. So that's what you would do in here. So you merge it. But, and I'm not sure if Ankur was asking about that, but there's a separate challenge, which is, what do you do if data is at a different grain? So what if our budget table is not at the product key level, the SKU level, it's at a subcategory level? Then the traditional approach to solve this was to create a different table at that grain, subcategory. Okay, I didn't type that right. And then you link this to product, and product is already linked with sales. And then you link budget directly with the subcategory, because you cannot link it to product table. It's not at SKU level. You can do that approach, but that's not my favorite approach. And I'm gonna have to give you a teaser. Well, sorry for that. But so data modeling is one of my favorite topics, and I know I work with Hector Garcia, who's all about QuickBooks. He's awesome. Check out his YouTube channel. And he warned me before I did a session with him. He said, Avi, don't use the word data modeling because nobody gets it. And I get it, but I love this topic. And I really feel that this has been the differentiator for me. This is the one thing that set me apart, this knowledge. And the oddest thing is that I have not read a single book on it, because it was taught to me by somebody else. Where is it? Come on. So all my knowledge comes from this book, but I've never read it because it was taught to me by my mentor, Greg Weber. And I got lucky. he has the same knack that I do, I can say that, which he simplifies things, breaks them down, makes them really understandable. So he taught me this book in a book club. Anyway, so data modeling. So instead of the classic solution where you go create a subcategory table, and I call them cascading lookup tables. So this is, oops. Oh gosh, let's refresh. So now if you go back to our table, it's the same setup. This data is coming. So this is the classic solution of when you have things that are different grain. Then you end up with this product subcategory, and you link these two, and product subcategory also links to budget, right? That's the way it works. But that's not the only way to solve it. There's also one way which you can just cheat, and which I often do for calendar tables. So notice here, budget is not at a daily level, but I just took the month, changed it to a date, and I connected to a calendar table. For calendar connections, if you have monthly data or quarterly data or annual data, I would just recommend that. Just convert it to a date and just connect it to a calendar table, and then hide that date over here. So you can cheat. That's one approach. The other is the cascading lookup tables that we talked about, and the third one, my favorite, and involves some fancy DAX. What that does is it takes this approach, a lookup table. So notice now that budget table, the grain of budget table, which is just the level of detail. That's it. That's what the grain is. So budget is at a subcategory level. Great, right? Can't spell it. And so is this table, right? The grain of them is the same. So you can link the two. And, okay, there we go. And the grain of, the grain of this is, let's call it the product SKU. I mean, it's a product ID, but you get the idea. So product SKU. And the grain of sales is also product SKU, right? So you can link these two, you can link these two, and of course you can link this guy with this guy, so it kind of works. But what if you could take this table which is at a subcategory level, and fold it into this table so that you have a hybrid table which is at two different grains at the same time. Oh my God, just thinking about that makes me excited. So now you got this hybrid table, which is at the SKU level and also at subcategory level. And now you can connect these two, and you can connect budget to it, and it all works. So that's my third solution. But hey, that's inside the course. That one is not on YouTube. The other ones are on YouTube, so you can get started there. Are they? I'm not sure. Maybe they are. Sorry. I know I covered them in the 5 days of live that we did earlier. If they're not there, they will be there. I intend for these two to be there, but this one might not be. But maybe I've given you enough pointer to kind of tackle it yourself. So again, that's the different grain problem. If you don't have the different grain problem, if you just like, hey, I have this third normal form tables coming in, just flatten out the lookup tables. Don't flatten the data table, flatten out the lookup table using query editor. Just merge it. Okay, let's see if you got it. So Andre sent me an email. I'm gonna go check that after I buy skis for my daughter. I think I'm headed out there. Actually, I gotta go. All right, so friends, this has been awesome. Yeah, this has been great. So I'll say I have unfairly compared you to my class. There is a video out there, a tale of two live calls, where I compared that how I really truly enjoy the sessions with my class, and these ones are kind of hit or miss. I think that's still true. Talk Power BI, sometimes we don't have the epic session that we just had, thanks to you guys, thanks to all of your great questions. But this was a blast. And hey, I mean, I think I do have more fun with students because, hey, they get to share the webcam. I get to know them a little bit more rather than just their kind of screen names. And they can tell me if I'm messing up their name. So it's a deeper connection. If you haven't heard, I'm going to save the story, but there's a story underneath of why I'm doing this. And the short version is that I don't just want to teach Power BI. I want to feel connected. I want to feel like I'm part of something big. I'm part of something bigger than myself. And you guys make that possible. So, all right, I'm going to take off. Thank you for joining. I'll see you next time. And we're going to be doing a day with Avi with all of you. And I'm looking forward to that. Take care, guys.